it's my Yom Kippur. He atones for me. Do I still have to do it? How does this work? Go to chapter 5. And you sit there, and I've got this real difficult scenario of how this works, and how does Yeshua fit into this whole debacle? And Paul literally starts formulating an argument, or let's say an instruction as a typical rabbi, and he weaves this web of from the very beginning there's something that you need to understand. And he goes in the beginning, he talks about, there is a rest for God's day. We are entering into His rest, which is Yeshua. So you need to keep Shabbat, point 1. Point 2, let me talk to you about a strange man called Melchizedek. Remember Melchizedek? Right, okay? His name is literally made up of 2 words. Melech, which means king, and Tzedek, it's difficult to do Tzedek. It's difficult to do the translation when you're thinking in Hebrew. Tzedek is righteousness. So his name literally means the king of righteousness. And he was king and a priest of which place? Salem, which is peace, shalom. Where do we get the word Jerusalem from? Yerushalayim is made up of 2 words. The term Yirah, which means God will provide, because God provided a sacrifice on Mount Moriah, which is where Jerusalem is, for Abraham. And look at the pictures. A loving father laying down his promised son as a sacrifice on a mountain, which would later be heaven. There's God and Yeshua. A loving son willingly walking with his old man, carrying the wood on his back, walking up to a hill, trusting that his father will take care of him. Foreshadows. Yirah, God will provide, and Salem, Yerushalayim, God will provide peace. For a sacrifice. Okay? To look deeper. And he would go up to this thing and he'd say, just look at verse 1. Chapter 5, verse 1. For every Kohen Gadol, every high priest taken from among men, is appointed to act on people's behalf with regard to things concerning God, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and with those who go astray, since he too is subject to weakness. Aaron had to make sin offering for himself first. Also, because of this weakness, he has to offer sacrifices for his own sins, and as well for those of the people. And no one takes honor upon himself, rather he is called by God, just as Aaron was. So that the Messiah glorify himself to become Kohen Gadol, rather it was the one who said to him, "You are my son, today I have become your father." Also, when it says in another place, you are Kohen forever, to be compared with Melchizedek. He is not of the Aaronic priesthood. He doesn't belong, technically, to the Levitical tribe. Actually, that's a half-truth, right? Where Messiah was part of the tribe of what? Judah, right? Because it was prophesied that he would come. He is the Lion of Judah. But he also had family who came from the tribe of Levi. Which lineage? John the Baptist was his cousin. John the Baptist, Yochanan and Musa was his cousin. Remember, Mary went to who?
Elizabeth.
Yeah? Who was she?
She was wife of Zechariah.
Yes, wife of Zechariah, who was a Levi, who was agreeing to the temple because that's where he met with God. But they were related. Go read the story. She was actually part of a Levitical tribe. So in a sense, he was both Judah and he was a Levite, but he's of a higher order. God says, you're not part of Aaron's priesthood, and this is the argument. Now, go and read this, please. He says, when Abraham came back after, remember, Lot was part of in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Okay, it was 4 kings up north came down Sodom and Gomorrah, and 3 other cities basically were vassal nations to the kings up north. Okay? They decided they were not going to be vassal nations anymore. We're not paying you temple tax anymore. We're not paying you tax anymore. We're done with you guys. Let's see what happens. And they get a coalition. 5 kingdoms against 4 kingdoms. And the 4 kingdoms come down and they smash the 5 kingdoms, and Lot just gets scooped up with the rest of it. And he's getting carted off. Abraham takes 313 of his servants. I'll give you an indication of how wealthy this man was. 313 men. And they go up, and they go and smack the snot out of the 4 kingdoms, who just smacked the snot out of the 5 kingdoms, and then brought him his sons and all the slaves back. And then the guys from, Sodom and Gomorrah came out, well, from their hiding places, and they were just, oh, you're so awesome, keep the thing, just give me my people. And he was like, please, you can take it all, I made an oath to God. You will not say you made me rich. But in the middle of this thing, he's coming through, and this guy, who's the only other place you really hear of him, is Melchizedek. Melchizedek, this king priest of Salem. What's so weird about being a king priest?
2 functions shouldn't go together.
In Torah, it's expressly forbidden.
Yes, a king is not to.
A king cannot be a
An
priest.
example is Saul.
Saul made boo-boo by making coffee. He should have waited for Samuel.
Yes.
And God held it against him. No king priest, you do not mix your 2 functions.
And Samuel said to Saul, it is better to obey than to sacrifice.
Same as Uzziah. I'm trying to go in with leprosy.
And again, separate, because when they said, we want our own king like all the other nations, Samuel was putting his hair out and he was going to God going, what the heck are they thinking? And God goes, don't worry, they don't reject you, they're rejecting me. The true king of Israel. And is he not the picture of a Kohen? Does he not institute the priesthood? Is he not the high priest? This is God's tabernacle. Only he is king priest. Melchizedek comes up, he pops up, and he blesses Abraham. And Abraham does what? He gives him a tithe. He says, here, you take a portion of the spoils. And Paul goes, who is greater? The one who gives the tithe or the one who receives the tithe? Surely the one who pays tribute to the king is greater than the one who gives. So therefore, Melchizedek was higher than Abraham. Nice rabbinic, eh? That's being a rabbi. These guys read some serious stuff.
Sorry, you can say again, the person that is
The
higher?
person who is higher is the one who receives the tribute
Okay.
instead of the one who pays the tribute. I'm honoring you because you are great and I'm little. So if it was good enough for Abraham to bow down to Melchizedek, and Yeshua is a Kohen forever after the order of Melchizedek, who is Melchizedek? Yeshua or Hashem himself. It was God in form,
Oh, not the slave.
which is Yeshua. Time and time again through the Old Testament, you have moments where God met with Abraham. Okay, he met with Jacob. He said he saw 3 people coming on. Abraham ran out and he said, Lord, please come sit down, eat, rest a little. I'll give you a little snack. And he went and he killed the fattened calf. He knew it was God. But it was in the shape of a man. Time and time again, you have these foreshadows and types of God coming down. If you have a priesthood that doesn't end, you cannot be human. And we hear nothing more of Melchizedek. Nothing more. A king priest of peace. He is Yeshua. And if you belong and you are Kohen HaGadol in the same vein, you are a priest forever. You are not broken like everybody else. You have the same thing. And if you carry on with his argument, he will just go, let me fast forward down. Chapter 6, verse 19. We have this hope as a sure and safe anchor for ourselves, and hope that goes right on through to what is inside the curtain, the parochet. We're a forerunner as in time has entered on behalf, namely Yeshua, who has become Kohen Gadol forever, to be compared to Melchizedek. He is standing in the presence of God in heaven, doing exactly what was commanded on earth. You come on Yom Kippur and you afflict yourself, you take ownership for yourself. You don't even need to make an offering anymore. Because Yeshua is that sacrifice. You don't need a priest to go in ahead of you to argue here or to go and lay your petition down. Yeshua is there already. And he's standing there before them coming and he says, Lord, look at your nation. Once a year they cry out before you. They say, don't leave us. Cleanse us, purify us, take our sin away from us so that you can continue to dwell with us. The heart of this blows my mind because these people would stop everything. They will not cook, they will not work, they will not do anything. They do not eat. And they go stand all day crying out to God saying, we're broken, we're broken, we're broken, we're broken, we're broken. Do not leave. You promised, you said you would stay here forever. You said you would never leave us, Lord. You said you would never leave us. We're standing here. How much more so for people who believe in Yeshua? How much more so can we cry out, Lord, that if you leave us, if you leave that indwelling, if you leave your heart, and you forget your promises, how can I be the bride of Christ if you walk away from that covenant? How can I acknowledge you and God on this day that you have set aside above all days that I can come into your presence and I can go, I'm broken, I need love, I need fixing, I need you to take care of it. It should be our prayer every day where God says, because you're human, because I know your faults, know your faults, I will make sure you won't forget. Once a year, I will make the time. God stands there and he looks at his people. And I'm going to ask you, where will you be? Shopping? Running around doing errands? Mowing the garden? Watching a movie? Or will you be standing before God crying out the same thing, which he has said? It's a permanent regulation. It's forever. And for us who know Yeshua, how much more can we thank him? It doesn't take away the sacrifice. My sacrifice is there. It's still in effect because I am not perfect. I mess up probably every day and I need that blood. I need that sacrifice every day. So when I come into the presence, I can still cling to a sacrifice. And I can still look to God and I say, you are my high priest. You are my king. I'm broken. I need you to fix me. I cannot change me. If I could, I would have. That's the beauty of this. You can't fix you. It's time you realize. So let God fix you. Why do you think it's so important that he makes you a new creation? Was the old creation that bad? Yes. It is the starting point of renewing the spirit so that you would start to cry out to God and want to be with him and want to walk with him and want to spend time with him. The flesh is still broken. We're still living in a fallen world, but this is what is happening. When God is finished, new heaven, new earth, new body, new Jerusalem, him living king reigning in Jerusalem, we will have full access to go up to him. There will be no more sickness, there will be no more death, there will be no more curses that the first Adam broke. Adam means man, eh? Mankind. The first God created man, God breathed man, broke stuff. The second God breathed man, Yeshua, is fixing stuff. He's conquering death when death was brought into the world because of disobedience. He obeyed unto death and he brought life. His holiest day in the entire covenant. Go and read Hebrews and look at how Paul continually says he's of such a higher order. You know the blood of goats and bulls, if there was enough for you to get the heart across, how much more so was Yeshua, who was pressed again in Garden of Gethsemane? God's Shem, Garden of the pressing. Each weight was packed on top of him. Our sin, 3 times he cried out. Sin, past, present, and future, says in Corinthians, if you take one. Each time. He took on the fullness of the transgressions, and God went like this on his head and said, it's time to take it. Is there any other way? Is there any other way? No one way. This needs to happen. Okay? I want to read to you something cool. I share this normally at Yom Kippur. And if you repeat. There's a section in the Talmud. Okay, now the Talmud is basically written commentary on the oral laws. The oral laws is the Mishnah. So it's basically rabbinic interpretation of things that have been handed down for years. Some of the oral traditions go back 2,500 years. Okay, so in Yeshua's time, there was Mishnah discussions. Well, we do it this way, we do it that way, and some of it he adhered to. Okay, we have to be careful. Some of it only came later and they completely lost the plot. Alright? But in the Talmud, there's an actual portion about why, just before the temple was destroyed, when the Yom Kippur sacrifice was no longer exempt. And that was just after Yeshua was crucified. Okay? If you want a reference, it's the Talmud, Bavli / Homer 39b. It's like the Talmud is not one book, it's like 40 books. And then you have the Mishnah, which is also volumes and volumes of books. There is an amazing reference in the Talmud that references that Yeshua was crucified. God no longer accepted the sin offering and the scapegoat offered by the high priest. The Talmud states, 40 years before the temple was destroyed. When was the temple destroyed? 70 AD, right? Okay? The chosen lot was not picked with the right hand, nor did the crimson stripe turn white. Okay, what they would do with it, to identify the goat that go to Azazel, they would literally tie a red string around it, and then they would be able to identify which one is for God, which was not, and they would send it out. Right? So, it was not picked with the right hand, nor did the crimson stripe turn white, nor did the westernmost lights burn. The doors of the temple's holy place swung open by themselves until Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai spoke, saying, O holy place, why have you become disturbed? I know full well that the destiny will be destruction. For the prophet Zechariah ben Iddo has already spoken regarding you, saying, open my doors of Lebanon, that my fire may devour the cedars. It's important to note that the event recorded in the Talmud occurred 40 years before the destruction of the temple, which is in 70 AD. The date is an amazing event of 30 AD. 30 AD. You can pretty much date it to the crucifixion. What is God trying to tell you?
That the sacrifice was accepted already.
So you don't have to worry about sacrifice for your sin anymore. He became that sacrifice. He became that purification. He became all of it for you. So when you look at what Paul is saying, he says you don't need that offering anymore. You have someone that is so much greater. You don't need that high priest anymore. You have someone who's already in that place and he's taking care of it. Okay? Any questions, any thoughts?
I just want to say one thing, sorry, I'm not speaking now. With doing Yom Kippur, I've never been done before. You know, we still need, so it's actually quite nice because we have the spirit of Yeshua, because he came down as a spirit to dwell with us and teach us as we go along. And he actually helps us. So like we open, like during the actual feast, actually our willingness, we like opening up our hearts and he comes in, because we might not know what our sin is. And then he starts dealing with it. And it's actually beautiful because all the feasts that we've done, we felt that it's the same situation. We're physically doing an obedience thing, then he comes into our heart because we're allowing him access. God never just comes and forces his way in, waits for you to open up. And it's so nice because then it frees you to, in your life, to be more effective for God and be ready like the temple for God to dwell in.
Alright. Okay, I'm not going to do 16 and 17 today. We'll pick up on that next week. Those are fairly short chapters, so I'll send out the homework in the group. You guys, you understand the heart, yes? The heart is the biggest thing here. Okay? Go and check up on Hebrews, and you'll start to see the exciting things. Alright, prayer time is every time.